Many people wonder about Sufis' relationship to Islam. And really, Sufism today, although Sufism goes beyond Islam, it was around long before Islam, but in the revival of it today, Sufism today is practiced most of the world it has its roots in Islam. And of course, in the West, much what happened is many people cut the Islam out of it. And so you have often a westernized thing with no Islam. And then there's also what I almost call polytheistic Sufism, where people have brought in all different faiths around Islam, around Sufism, and they're merging it with Christianity and merging it with Hinduism and merging it with Buddhism and sometimes all of them simultaneously. But first of all, you have to realize that Sufism at its core is about the purification that occurs in a person's heart in relationship to God. Okay. So Sufism is about how, first we have to find our heart. We've been talking about that. So how do you find your heart? And then when you find it, you realize that there's all sorts of veils in your heart, things that really are not serving you or serving others. So Sufism means to purify or to become pure. And what you're purifying is first your heart, and then later also your actions, and finally your soul. And then you're returning to your spirit and merging it into the world, the ocean of divinity. So in Islam, Islam was really brought through as a teaching it was a teaching of action initially. In other words, it was saying for people who were crossing every line and destroying themselves, really, and others through that, Islam came in and said, well, you know what? It's not okay when you do that. It's not okay when you do that. And that became essentially the implementation of divine law, which, by the way, is very similar to Judaic law and very similar to Christian law. And in some ways, actually, it's quite relaxed from real Judaic law. In other words, Judaic law is actually quite much more intense if you really knew it. So Islam is about it. We say it has these different aspects, this divine law, which is not the stuff people are afraid of. It's really saying if you do something that's going to break the heart of somebody, not because, if you really need to leave a relationship because you're not in love and you break the heart, that's okay. But if you go after somebody and break their heart, then that's not okay. You see, and so Islam in its core is about how you stop hearts from being broken, both at a societal level and at a individual level. For example, alcohol. Well, alcohol, everybody in the West, we like to drink alcohol. People drink it. But we also know that alcoholism is rampant in the West. We know that most of the traffic incidences where people are killed, innocent people are killed, has to do with drunk drivers who crossed the road. They were drunk and they crossed over the lanes and they killed somebody. So, Islam says, knowing that, what do we do with that? Can we ask people, if we let them drink and they're irresponsible with it, they're going to kill people. If we take it away from them, we take away their rights. So what do we do with that? How do we deal with that situation? And this is where the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and all the enlightened beings, they contemplate the balance, the weight. If you weigh the drinking and all the good it does and all the bad it does it weigh positive or negative for the global society or for the collective society? And if it weighs negative, meaning that there's more harm done than good, then generally it's requested not to do it. And that's where how these things come about. So Sufism is rooted in the contemplation of extremely enlightened awakened individuals, which we call prophets, who are these are the most enlightened, perfect masters on the planet, and they're male and female. They're not only male. There are many female perfect masters as well, and they contemplate these things, and they go to God and they ask God, what do we do with this? And then God gives them answers, and that's where these things come about. And again, the best answer is the answer that is best for the group, and that's the answer that's brought through.